All right, let's get right into it. The US government just made a huge and honestly a legally weird move in the nuclear energy world. And believe it or not, it's all tied to the race for AI supremacy. So we're going to break down exactly what just happened, why it is such a massive deal, and what it signals for the future. And here you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. The Department of Justice's Antitrust Division, yeah, the people whose entire job is to stop companies from colluding, just announced they're doing the exact opposite to help America win the AI race. What's so wild about this is who's saying it. It's not the Department of Energy, it's the DOJ. That immediately tells you this isn't just an energy policy, it's a national priority that's big enough to bend the normal rules of the market. So this leads to the big blinking question, right? Normally, if a bunch of competitors get in a room and start coordinating on production and prices, that's called a cartel. It's super illegal. So how on earth is this allowed? Well, the answer is this really powerful and rarely used legal tool, antitrust immunity. What this means is the government is essentially saying, hey, this goal is so important to the country that we're hitting the pause button on our own competition laws for a very specific group of companies. Make no mistake, this is a huge step, something they only pull out for stuff they see as critical to national security. So let's really unpack what the government has put on the table here. They aren't just turning a blind eye, they've actually built a whole new framework to make this collaboration happen. They're calling it a safe lane, and honestly, that's the perfect way to think about it. It means companies in the nuclear fuel business can now work together and directly with the government to fix the entire domestic supply chain. We're talking from the moment uranium comes out of the ground to the moment it's ready for a reactor. And they can do it without constantly looking over their shoulder for lawyers. This is the government sending the loudest possible signal. We've got your back, go build. But why do something so drastic? What's going on that's so urgent it justifies tossing aside decades of legal precedent? Well, it's this perfect storm of new tech, global politics, and national security. It really boils down to three key things. First, the AI boom. You know, all those data centers are incredibly thirsty for power, and that demand is just exploding. Nuclear gives you massive amounts of reliable, clean energy. Second, national security. The US depends way too much on other countries, especially Russia, for its nuclear fuel. This is about cutting those ties. And finally, just plain old supply chain security. The goal is to bring the whole process back to the US, so we're not vulnerable to problems happening halfway around the world. And look, this didn't just happen overnight. You can see the breadcrumbs. It started back in May 2025, with executive orders designed to get the ball rolling. Then in August, the DOE put together a special group, this consortium. But the real game changer, the final piece of the puzzle, dropped in December, when the DOJ granted that legal immunity, officially opening up that safe lane for business. Okay, so you know a policy shift this big is going to send shockwaves through the market. So let's talk about what this actually means for uranium prices and for the companies that dig this stuff up. Just to give you a little context, by the end of 2025, long-term uranium contracts were already hovering around $86 a pound. Now, a policy like this is expected to create real, steady, government-backed demand, which is almost certainly going to push that price even higher over time. And this is a really important point to understand. There are basically two different uranium markets. You've got the spot price, which is super volatile and mostly driven by traders and speculation. But then you have the long-term contract price. That's the real one, the one tied to actual production costs that utilities pay. This whole government plan is aimed squarely at making that long-term market stronger and more predictable for American producers. So what kind of headlines should we be watching for? Well, expect to see a lot more announcements about the government signing deals to buy uranium or funding new mines. There's even chatter about creating a new strategic uranium reserve. All of this, of course, is likely to make North American projects more valuable. And, yeah, probably give a nice boost to the stock prices of the companies involved. Which brings us to our final piece of the puzzle. Who are we talking about here? Let's look at the companies that are in the right place at the right time to benefit from this huge government push. But first, a real quick crash course. To know who the players are, you gotta know the game. The nuclear fuel cycle has a bunch of steps. It starts with mining and milling the ore. Then it gets converted into a gas, enriched, and finally fabricated into fuel rods. After that, you can even recycle the spent fuel. The government's plan is designed to strengthen every single link in this chain. And here are some of the publicly traded companies to keep an eye on, all sorted by what they do in that cycle. You can see there are players at every stage, from miners like UEC and UUU, all the way down the line to companies that handle fuel fabrication and recycling, like BWXT and Oklo. This just shows you how comprehensive this strategy is. It's about building the whole ecosystem, from top to bottom right here at home. So here's the bottom line. The government has just sent its clearest signal yet. It is deadly serious about rebuilding the American nuclear industry. And it's doing it for two huge reasons: the unstoppable demand from artificial intelligence and the critical need for national security. The only question left is, with this safe lane now wide open, are we about to witness a real, honest-to-goodness American nuclear renaissance?